Welcome to Loop TV. I'm your host, Gene Munster. I'm joined today by Rob Maurer, who is the founder, host, and the most knowledgeable person, I think, on the planet when it comes to Tesla. Rob, I haven't mentioned this, but I spent and continue to spend a lot of time studying Apple. I obsess about the details of the company, where they're going. I consider you equally as obsessed on the details of Tesla, and we welcome your input here going into what is an important event in the trajectory, which of course is the quarterly delivery numbers. That is our A topic today, is putting some parameters around expectations and how to process the numbers. And so I'll just open it up with a very high level question. You can go as short or long on it as you like, but where should people's heads be at in terms of expectations for deliveries for the June quarter for Tesla?
Yeah. So I love how you set that up in terms of this number is going to provide us context and it helps us understand sort of how to process Tesla's trajectory. So I think you're probably the same with Apple. The quarterly results, they matter, but what we're really trying to get at is where things are headed beyond here rather than just one individual quarter. So I think
Mhm.
that's a great way to put it. Um, in terms of what to expect this quarter, the current analyst consensus is about 201,000 deliveries. That would be a
201.
record 201. That'd be a record quarter for Tesla. Last quarter, they delivered about 185,000. That was their prior record. So analysts are looking for continued growth, which we should definitely see from Tesla as they continue to ramp up in Shanghai. And hopefully they can increase their production in Fremont this quarter as well. We
Let
saw
me
that
interrupt.
be,
One question:
yeah.
from March to June, is that typically for the, do you know, for the auto industry, is that typically a seasonally, is June a little bit stronger than March, or is it a wash between the two?
Yeah, generally it kind of ramps up throughout the year. So Q1 tends to be the weakest, Q4 tends to be the strongest, and then Q2 and Q3 kind of falling in between.
Okay.
Tesla follows that to some extent. Generally, that's because Tesla does production downtime and retooling and things in Q1, which we saw this quarter as well, or last Q1 as well with the refresh. Tesla stopping production on the S and X to ramp that back up now, hopefully in the second half of the year.
Got it. So 201 is kind of the number out there. When I even hear an up number, I'm think about all these very well documented chip shortages, the impact on the auto industry as a whole. To even increase production, it seems like that is a big feat with some of these supply constraints, these component constraints. Does that weigh into that 201 number? How does that impact that 201 number? Would it be a better number if not for that, or is it a non-event in this quarter?
I think that's what we're kind of all waiting to find out. Elon Musk has said that this has been one of the most challenging periods of time ever at Tesla for the supply chain. What that ends up being in terms of the impact to production is an open question. It can be challenging, but Tesla can also do things to solve the challenge. We saw them really step up to the plate in Q1. As I said, it was a record quarter despite some of those challenges and not having S and X production. So the expectation, I think, for them to continue to be able to grow that and improve that despite all the challenges in the supply chain and logistics right now, we should continue to see. As for what it would be without that, I'm sure consensus would be a little bit higher, but we'll see how much the impact is to Tesla this quarter.
Do you know what the 201 would imply for a year-over-year growth?
Yeah, it's actually really, really high. I don't have production in front of me, but for deliveries, it'd be, I think, like 100 and some percent. Last year, Tesla delivered, I think, 83,000 in Q2. And that was because they had significant downtime from coronavirus related
Okay.
shutdowns last year,
Yes,
Q2.
yeah. Easy comp, but still impressive. And last
Very
quarter, I
much.
think they had deliveries, I believe those deliveries were up 109%. That number had accelerated over the previous 6 quarters. It's been quite incredible, even with the pandemic. This accelerating, we talked about as being a true growth story with accelerating growth off of higher numbers. But so that 201 number would be continued acceleration, obviously easy comps, but continued acceleration, correct?
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Awesome. And so this maybe just taking the thread beyond the June quarter and thinking about the impact on well, let's talk about some of the ramping production you referred to. Which one of those do you think has the biggest potential to be a positive factor on Tesla results in the balance of the year, the back half of the year?
Sure. So right now, if Tesla does come in around that 201,000 level, they're going to be at maybe, 385 to 390,000 deliveries so far this year. The current analyst consensus for the full year is about 850,000. So Tesla would have to do about 460,000 in the latter half of the year, 230,000 a quarter, which again would show that, 10% sequential growth quarter over quarter, kind of from where we're at right now. And I think we can do that. Tesla can do that. What's really been a missing factor the first half of the year, as we mentioned, is the S and X production. Tesla does hope to ramp that back up to about 25,000 a quarter. So even just when they get that up and running, plus Model 3 and Model Y at their steady state, current state right now, kind of already gets them to where they need to be for analyst consensus. And then hopefully you have continued ramping up from Shanghai and potentially a little bit from Fremont as well. Tesla mentioned in the Q1 report that Model Y production at Fremont was approaching full capacity. So it does still imply that there is a little bit of room to grow there. It's close, but not quite there. So hopefully we see that ramp up as well as Shanghai, SNX, and then the wild card, of course, being Berlin and Texas if we get any production out of that sort of in Q4.
Unlikely on those fronts on Berlin and Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily modeling for it right now. I don't think it's impossible for Tesla to produce some. I don't know that it'll be a huge amount. They
Right.
seem to be targeting sort of like October start time, but it's definitely an open question as well.
High level question. When you think about these growth numbers, this accelerating growth, what's going on? Is just the light finally kind of fully clicking over that when people are buying new cars, they need to consider an electric car, and Tesla's an obvious choice for the price performance, or is how do you account for this kind of continued growth in this wave?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of things. I think where we want to start is just the automotive market in general. 80 million, 100 million vehicles. Tesla's doing 500,000 a year. They're at about, 0.5% to 1% market share. There's huge, huge opportunity for growth. And clearly, Tesla's got a ton of demand. Again, this quarter, generally quarter end, we see some sort of incentive from Tesla, like 1,000 miles of free supercharging or a year of free supercharging or something like that, just to make sure customers are coming in and picking up their cars. Last 2 quarters, we haven't seen any of that in the US from Tesla. That's just another sign of strong demand, continued price increases as well. There's almost no inventory available right now, new inventory in the US for Tesla. So a lot of markets to grow into. Demand seems to be super strong. Automotive market in general is hot right now, but especially for Tesla. And then it's just a matter of just getting production ramped up, which we've seen the Model Y contribute to this year. That should continue next year with Berlin and Texas. And then hopefully we get some Cybertruck production in there as well. Tesla's got a lot of room to grow.
I'm going to put the pause button on the preview of the quarter and just jump right through a rapid tour of the toy department and go through a few topics that I've been dying to ask you about. One is, can you give us a sense about how Tesla has been changing the price of the vehicles over the past 3 months?
Yeah, for sure. So if we look at the Model 3 and the Model Y, the price increases have ranged anywhere from increasing by about $1,500 on the low end to about $3,000 on the high end. And Tesla's been pretty consistently doing that every couple of weeks. The
Every
Model Y
couple of
long,
weeks.
yeah, the Model Y long range, it's had 6 price increases this quarter, all of $500 a piece. So that's brought that up $3,000 per
And do you
vehicle
think they're
above where
just
it
they
was to start the
can't make
quarter.
them fast enough, so might as well charge more? Is that the mentality?
Again, that's something we're really looking forward to with the Q2 results, the earnings results, which we should get in a few weeks after the delivery report. But obviously, with the supply chain challenges, prices have gone up both for some parts as well as for raw materials. So it could be a compensation for that, or it could be demand, or more likely a mix of both of those things. So how that plays out in the margin line is one of the things I'm most curious about for the actual Q2 earnings results.
Toy department topic number two is the Tesla EV tax credits. We hear about prices going up every 2 weeks. Maybe we get some medication on that with the US government giving a tax credit. Probability that we get that.
Uh, I s- I would say it seems more likely than not to me right now. Obviously, the change there in the last couple of weeks, and since we had last spoken about this topic, was the bipartisan infrastructure framework that President Biden has said that he will support. That does not include the EV tax credit. However, the Democrats are looking to do a process called reconciliation. That's through like the budgeting creation process, which they do eventually hope to include the EV tax credit in. I think we'll get more news on that sort of towards the end of September. But right now it's also, TBD, though to me it definitely seems like still a hot topic on the Democratic agenda.
Percentage likelihood that there's a $5,000 tax credit for Tesla by the end of the year.
Well, I think if there is one, it would be more than 5,000, probably be 10,000. I guess I'll go with my 66% and say more likely than not.
Two-thirds. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll take that. Two more topics. Let's go to Asia here. There's been some news relating an update on the sudden acceleration or the software fix on that in China. Harkens back to a way a long time ago. Audi had a problem called sudden acceleration. Turned out actually being that the brake and the gas pedal, the design was a little too close to each other. And I'm curious, I mean, I had some flashbacks to that when I heard this. What's your perspective on the news from Asia?
Yeah, so I think it's a non-story. This is, we had the story of 285,000 vehicles being recalled in China. Technically a recall, I suppose, but most of this is handled through over-the-air software updates from Tesla. I would assume greater than 99% of the problem fixed through over-the-air software updates. So really no inconvenience for the customer. Tesla's always updating software. The only thing that was happening is people would accidentally potentially engage traffic-aware cruise control, which could cause the vehicle to accelerate. But the good thing is that it's traffic-aware cruise control, so even if it did accelerate, it's still aware of the traffic. It's probably not going to run into anything. So not a huge deal, and not anything I think investors should be concerned about.
And last question, as we think about the Cybertruck and Ford Lightning, do we have any latest data, pre-orders, or any of them saying anything? Seems like it's been pretty quiet. Anything on that front?
Yeah, we don't really get official updates from Tesla on that. There's some speculation that maybe it's a couple million, but kind of hard to know for that on the Cybertruck. And then for the Ford F-150, they've announced a couple of times their reservations. I'm not sure exactly what the latest count is. The last time I tracked it, though, through about a week, I think they had maybe 70,000 reservations compared to the Cybertruck after a week, I think was around 250,000. Something in those ballpark where the Lightning had about 1/3 the amount of the Cybertruck. Um, that being said, I don't think for either vehicle that reservation count matters too much. I think they're both going to be able to sell as many as they can produce. So again, when we think about the market, it's a huge market. These numbers really shock people when we're talking about 1 million vehicles a year. It's really not all that much. And Ford is going to be producing way less than that for a long time on the Lightning. I think they're going to be able to sell all they can make.
Makes sense. And we're going to leave it there. And I guess on behalf of the person who can frame up Tesla better than anybody, Rob Maurer, and myself, Gene Munster, and Loup TV, bye for now.